reaching up and making the grab. Odell Beckham Jr. Stafford buys time. Protection is good, and so is the pass. Henderson came out of the backfield. Jefferson in motion. Henderson, nice cutback. Stafford rolling and throwing. Caught, touchdown. Stafford caught on the run. Cup, who else? Comes out of the slot to the right, looks that way, fires that way. Cup makes the grab at about the 18-yard line. Pass, Cup, got it, touchdown. Burrow trying to keep it going, gets spun down, gets it away, and incomplete. It looked like P-Ron might have had a shot to make the grab, but the Rams now running down to celebrate with a defensive play.
And guess who? Guess
of course.
Who? I mean, you don't even have to think about it. Do not even have to think about it.
Pointing to the ring finger.
Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams video. I am your co-host Ashton with my awesome co-host here, Zac. Zac, how are you feeling at the end of another season? Not as great as the last season ending in the way it did. But we have some positive news. We'll talk about how you doing, how you feeling.
Hey, I'm doing all right. I kind of felt a little nostalgic. Had to get out my Rams horns, and I'm also repping my Bengals Rams Super Bowl sweatshirt, supporting my Bengals family. Kind of rubbing a little knife in there at the same time. But no, I'm doing great. Yes, it stinks that we ended the season where we did, but at the same time, I could use a little bit of a break. I think McVay. He could have used a little bit of break and did get his break. I think the whole team does. It's really hard to become back-to-back champions, and I think we're all ready just to take some time and see where this offseason takes us.
Yeah, we'll get to all the off-season stuff and the coaching drama, let's say, or lack of drama, after we go over the game and kind of react to the game. And this was a heartbreaking loss to kind of go through in overtime. Zac, I know you have an opinion about these refs. How they do? What if you gave them a grade? What would it be?
I mean, it's a big fat F. Coming from someone who has,
Yeah.
when the idea has been brought up where we should have, the all-seeing eye, we should have the God view of, we should just let cameras and
VAR.
replays. Yeah, we should just let everything be, reviewable and turns and things like that. I've always been like, no, I think we should have the officiating crew. That's what makes this game is having those officials and not having everything tic-tac and everything picked out and called upon. But man, when you watch this game specifically, I have never, in all the times that I've ever watched this game, watched it and then felt so angry at every call that they were making, whether it was for the Rams or Seahawks, whatever. When you have in this particular instance, it was Fox was the one putting on the show. When you had the Fox referee analysis or whatever you want to call them, the rules official for Fox, never actually say, yeah, I kind of agree with that call. It's bad. Usually they try to find, the circumstance, you really couldn't you really couldn't make up your mind. Like, that wasn't the case. He was like, yeah, that's probably a no call. Yeah, I probably wouldn't call that. That's probably an overturn. Yeah, he got out of the pocket. That's a no call. it was just the worst officiating that I think I've ever seen in my existence of watching football. All right, I gotta take the helmet off.
Uh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely in the top five of worst games I've watched while watching the Rams. There's one, I think it was uh, with might have been the Bengals and someone else playing, and the reffing in that game was just atrocious. But for the most part, this game, it was just ridiculous because it wasn't even close calls. We're not complaining about, you know, one of those things where you can kind of see it going both ways, like both players kind of fighting at each other, and then one pushes the other, and like they throw unsportsmanlike on both or something like that, where you're like, I can kind of see where you're going with that as a ref. It was just continuously, especially in the fourth quarter, and I think that's where we have the issue. I feel like it was inconsistent in the first three quarters, but it wasn't egregious. It got very bad in the fourth quarter to the point where like they're calling a roughing a punter that was clearly the punter flopping. And I can understand calling that call on the field at first when you see like I'd rather you throw the flag over like look over the review of the video of it and be like, oh no, he clearly just dropped and the Rams player got pushed. That's what happened. That is not roughing the punter, especially when your team pushes him into the other, like your own punter. And
Well,
to
not
me,
even
when you
not
get
even that.
flags,
No, no, go. I
and
mean,
what
go ahead. I
he
mean, you can finish.
barely he barely grazed him, barely touched him, and he flops. That's what makes it egregious. It's not only did he not like fall on the punter of his own accord, it's that the punter also like barely gets touched and just flops. And but yet our punter can get blasted and completely destroyed by the Seahawks in our first game, and no flag, perfectly fine. You can like decapitate our punter. It just two separate games, but in the context of this game, it was just so egregious.
Yeah, and I think the other part
And
about it was
I'm not one to complain about the refs either. I think for most part, when a lot of people complain about the refs, it's a little bit overblown, or like, yeah, it's one bad call, but it doesn't lose you the game. And let's be honest, Zach, we lost this game not because the refs. We lost it because Baker Mayfield couldn't connect with Van Jefferson in OT. That's why we lost the game. Uh,
yeah.
but the refs definitely didn't do us any favors, and it was atrocious.
I mean, you go back. I mean, that punting part. I mean, the punter even had both feet on the ground. Once a punter is done kicking the ball and has put his feet back on the ground, there that shouldn't be a call anyway. So not only did our player get pushed by a Seahawk into him, that the kicker was already had both feet planted on the ground. Should have been a no call anyways. Then you had the Jalen Ramsey um, personal foul injury when clearly he wasn't he wasn't moving. Literally, Geno Smith ran into him and Ramsey just stood his ground. I don't care whether he's out of bounds or not. He ran into Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey stood his ground, and it just so happens that Geno flopped to the ground. And then you come after that with Metcalf pulling on his face mask and doing taunting to him. And you had the Geno, or was it Geno Smith who taunted? Someone taunted Wagner on the side of the field, clear as day,
It was their safety
pointing at him, and
after
that
the
was
interception.
egregious. That's egregious as well. So there was plenty of things that were either not called aggressively on the Rams, and then
The
after
intentional
the
grounding that was intentional grounding that they were just didn't care to call on Geno Smith.
yeah, like this
Where
whole
it didn't
game just
even make it to the line of scrimmage. Like, that's
no.
the funny thing. It wasn't even close. And he clearly wasn't out of the pocket. And I found it funny because the commentators were like constantly like, I don't know why they called that. Or like, oh, that's egregious. They should call that. Or like, it was just, it's bad. it was not well done, and it irks me because the NFL is already to a point where I don't even expect good officiating by the rule set. All I want is consistency for that game, right? Like, if
I
you're
mean, if you
not
call
following the
one,
rule for, yeah,
if you have one bad call, you're gonna have that. You're gonna have that. There's
happens.
gonna be a
Yeah.
call. It's gonna be bad. But this was consistent. This wasn't going back to the 2019, the or the 2018 when the Rams were up
NFC
Saints.
pass
Yeah,
breakup.
the NFC Championship. Um, that was one call. Handsy, yes. Was it probably pass interference? Probably, but it was one call in a whole game that was bad. This game was
With
atrocious where it was
two,
any.
and let's not have memory loss about that game. There was two roughing the passer calls that should have been called on the Saints hitting Goff. The Saints had two other drives after that to win the game, and they threw interceptions on both. So you can't pretend the Saints didn't get a chance to win after that one play. And I same argument here. We had chances to win after that. We didn't execute, but we didn't get the same basically breaks that Seattle did or give me's. Again, they converted on fourth down because of that roughing the punter. We get the ball back at our own 40, up three, Zach. It's just if you're talking about analytics, that makes a world of difference with not a lot left in the game. So it was bad. I mean, let's talk about the game itself specifically, Zach. Cam Akers above 100 yards, the brightest spot of this team in the last month. Um, do you believe in the hype? Do you think he's back? Do you think 2020 Cam Akers is here and to stay? Like, that's the second part of the question. Is it gonna be like this next year, or are we gonna have another roller coaster with Cam?
I think, assuming that everything goes well, I think this is. I think this is the Cam that we've been waiting for, and that he's been wanting to show us. I really think it had to do. I think that backlash, the kind of the fallout between them two. I really think it had to happen, and when that happened, we saw some things change. We saw Thomas Brown getting back more involved into the offense, back more involved into the running game, and uh, I think that helped. I think Thomas Brown is a bigger impact to this team than we can imagine, especially in the running game, and I really hope that that continues, and if it does, I truly believe that we could be, a running threat, assuming that we can continue keeping our offensive line healthy and consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the big thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think he is here. I'm not completely sold yet. I still personally think we need to draft a running back, a secondary option. Um, Make him the workhorse, and if he does good, then you can keep him and develop a guy behind him. I just think our depth behind him is atrocious. It's very telling that yes, after camp, they were willing to trust the rookie, Kyron Williams. But after week 8, uh, I'm sorry, Zach, I think the coaching staff had zero trust in him. Why? I have no clue. I don't know if it's practices. I don't know, because when he was getting in games, he looked better than the other two backs, but yet he was barely getting snaps. And even after we cut Henderson, he even got less snaps than when Henderson was here.
Mm-hmm.
I understand some of that has to do with them deciding to make Cam Akers a bell cow, and that wasn't working out for a few games. Even then, when it wasn't working out, like Kyron Williams barely got touches. So I just hope we draft a running back behind him. Let's talk about this. let's talk
The only
about
thing
this
I had,
defense, Zach.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, no. The only thing I was going to add was, this was Cam Akers' third over 100-yard game, which is something that the Rams haven't seen in a very, very, very long time, since Todd Gurley times.
Yep.
And I think that is a positive step. I agree with you. I think the Rams do need to bring in another running back. As much as I do enjoy Malcolm Brown, I think we need someone who's built a little bit like Malcolm Brown. He's built a little bit bigger, who can kind of push push the line when it needs to. Um, but that's the kind of running back I think I'm looking for. I think we have the quickness and the speed with Cam Akers and Kyron Williams. I kind of want to see maybe a little bit more built back to kind of help um, equalize
Help with their
that running game.
downs and stuff
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a few good running backs that I think will be like available in the fourth and fifth round, Zach, and that's a little hint preview about some of our upcoming pods, guys, about the draft and stuff. Of course, we're not experts, but we'll put our 2 cents and be wrong, mostly wrong about a lot of this. But I'm sure we'll hit on a few things. Let's talk about this defense because, Zach, I thought the defense played for the most part very well. Like they definitely had a lot of fight in them. Again, the D line and our edges not getting pressure, not getting to the quarterback. I think that needs to be a priority in the draft, at least at edge. Is like we can't continue to have a defense where like we get no help to our secondary and just let the QB stand in the pocket completely, or let, in this case, Geno Smith kind of contain. Um, we got to have an edge to be able to keep contain and get pressure. The secondary, the safeties, again, Zach, I feel like we always have this conversation with Taylor Rapp. It's like three terrible games, and he'll have one game where he's good. I guess this was his best game as a Ram, for what
Yeah,
that's worth.
yeah. I mean, I thought our secondaries actually did better this game than they have in the past few weeks. Obviously, Ramsey with his two interceptions. Unfortunately, Yeast got hit out and had to actually go to the hospital after the game or during the game. So, um, or was that this game? That was this game, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeast
yeah.
got out this game.
So that was disappointing. But our secondary didn't do terrible. They only gave up 213 yards. Um, only 19 pass attempts for Geno Smith of 31. So they
Wasn't
did
the
good.
Lockett touchdown on Yeast?
I will look that up here in a minute, but it might have been, or was that later on in the game? But anyways, I mean, that was disappointing that they got him on that. That was kind of a blown coverage. Um,
Yeah.
kind of hit, and it was disappointing. But really, what our biggest weakness was in this game was our run defense, which up until this point was actually pretty good. But they were just letting them walk all over the place. I mean, Kenneth Walker, he got 114 yards. Geno Smith got 51 yards on his own. DJ Dallas got 29 yards. I mean, these guys got 197 yards uh, on this defense, which again has been pretty successful in the run defense in most of the games.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with you. The run defense was very lackluster. I think some of that kind of has to do with the pressure or the lack of pressure we were able to get when they were passing. So when they were freely passing, it opened up running lanes for Kenneth Walker. And the edge contain was very bad. I felt like a lot of their big runs came off of like edge runs coming around the edge. And yeah, I think Aaron Donald will fix a good amount of that on the line, just coming back. And we'll talk about free agency in a pod or two, but we're going to have to make some decisions about some of these line defenders between one or two of them. and one's better at run defense, and the other is better at rushing. So I'll be interested to see kind of what direction they go in that.
Yeah, especially since it was came out today that the Rams are going to have the least amount of cap space going into the next season. So, um, we're
It's
running.
nothing Les Need hasn't seen before.
It's true, but I mean, I feel like a little bit of that is still into play where, we can't go out and we can't buy, a star player anymore. I think we're kind of we have the stars that we have, and so now we're going to be looking at the depth positions and some of those pieces that I think we can get from the draft, from free agency, but it's not going to be star-studded names that the Rams are kind of used to bringing in the offseason.
Hmm.
Unless we do something with
Unless if
a star or two.
Yeah, unless if we trade someone away or something, which is possible, given Les Need's mentality and the way they think in cutting edge. Any other thoughts on this game, Zach? I mean, Tutu looked fine, good.
Yeah, really, he only had 2 catches, but again, he's been getting, his averages have always been above 10 yards, which is something the Rams really need to see. Um, I think that's good for Matthew Stafford going into next season. I really think that him having a more of a deep threat or more options at a deep threat is something that was missing even last year. When we did make the Super Bowl run.
Yeah,
When OBJ went down, all you're left is Cooper Cup. And yes, you can dink and dunk, which is, what the Rams have been pretty good about doing. But they need someone who can be fast and quick and get away from the defenders.
spread
Um,
those safeties back.
yeah, and I
Yeah,
mean, it's so that's where we're at. But I thought this game, like I said, the game was disappointing. Our offense did not play efficiently. Baker Mayfield did not play efficiently.
no,
This tells you, he's looking for a QB1 spot. He's not going to be the Rams backup. I think that's all clear. He made that clear during one of his post game pressers. He thinks he's a QB1. I think the Rams assumed getting this that he was going to be a QB1 somewhere else, and that they're looking at this to try to improve his career and then also get a comp pick out of it. So hopefully that works. Hopefully he can find a spot with one of the teams that are really looking to pick up a quarterback. There are a lot of them out there, so um, be looking to
Texans.
see where that goes. Texans, Colts. Looks like the Bears aren't going to be moving away from that, but there's just a lot going on.
Yeah. Um.
Well, what was the other
Let's
big news that came out today?
Oh no, just a guy I bet I don't think you've heard of him, Zach. Just a minor staffer on the Ram staff named Sean McVay. He decided not to leave the team, and a part of me feels like in a different universe, or like a multiverse, where me and you are talking about McVay leaving and like the coaching candidates and how exciting and scary it could be, like looking at these different coaches on the market. We don't have to deal with all that stress and stuff. Now we can talk about who we think he's going to get as OC and DC. Do you agree that Raheem Morris is probably going to get hired as a head coach this season or this cycle?
In my heart, I would love him to stay to give it one more year. But as a person, I think he deserves a chance at
Yeah.
becoming a head coach somewhere. The situation has been known. Ramsey made the situation known of he hopes these are real interviews, and I think that's all of our hopes is that that these NFL owners are not just checking off a box when they're interviewing candidates. I really want them to take them seriously. Raheem Morris has been a fantastic coach here at the Rams, and I think he could be a fantastic head coach. I mean, whether the reports are true or not, that if McVay was stepping down after the Super Bowl for this 2022 season, that Raheem Morris was looking to fill that spot. And honestly, that's what I was thinking. That was what I was hoping if McVay decided to leave. is that they would look into Raheem Morris because I think that was going to be a better way to keep Aaron Donald in play and keep Jalen Ramsey in play and keep him hooked here, at least for one more season. But I'm glad McVay is coming back. I hope Raheem Morris finds that job. If he doesn't, obviously he knows. I think he's the only staffer other than maybe Thomas Brown who's probably safe um, for the 2023 season. I mean, this is the first year that McVay has opened up the floodgates, saying, "Yeah, go pursue other jobs. I'm not holding you back." To his coaches, so it'll be interesting to see what happens from that. I'm hoping Thomas Brown continues to stay with the Rams. Again, I think he could do an excellent job somewhere else, but I really think that he could play a good mind here. Um, some
So
of the names,
if you had to pick, if you had to pick Thomas Brown or Cliff Kingsbury as OC, who would you pick? Because I feel like Thomas Brown's going to get an OC position. It's just whether it's going to be with the Rams or not.
yeah, I mean, I know McVay. He has close ties to Cliff Kingsbury. The so either I'm going to give you. I don't know. I honestly don't know which one would be a better one. Obviously, Kingsbury is coming from Arizona, and anybody coming in from a different division just feels weird to me. But what I hope is whatever position that we get, whether it's Thomas Brown, whether it's Cliff's Clean, man, I can never say his name fully. Whether it's Frank Reich, which again I don't really love that idea. I've seen him in person here at Indianapolis, and so I get it, but I not really what I want. But I want someone to be able to kind of challenge McVay and help take some of the pressure off, because I think again we're going through the situation where he needed time to kind of evaluate what he wants to do. And I think this organization needs to figure out how to not get him burnt out so that we're not always at this situation. I do think that this is probably the last year for McVay, just given all things, but that's how I'm going into the season. If he stays longer, great. But 2023 is like, I knew he was staying, even with all the reports coming out and all the source leaks and whatever. I just had this feeling that this is not the way he wants to go. He's not ready to leave this team in the way that it is. This is not a rebuild year as people think it is, and so that's how I kind of came down to the conclusion weeks ago when this was all coming out that he was not going anywhere. What about
Uh,
your thoughts?
yeah, I thought he was going to leave. Uh, we were planning on recording this a few days ago, guys, and thankfully, stuff's conflicted, and we had to push it back. That make us sound a little bit more informed, because a little extra day and more knowledge doesn't hurt. Uh, but I really did think he was going to leave. He came off as a guy, and I know this personally, Zach, because this is the way I act and the way I do work. Is I'm almost an anti-procrastinator, and I have to do everything at full effort constantly, from start to finish. And then, the bad thing about especially working in the job I work at, which is writing software, is you always have another problem. You always have the next patch to put out. And when you keep on piling stuff up, burnout is real. And I completely understand the thing that he went through. I know it's hard for people who don't go through that to kind of sympathize or understand what it's like, because it takes a really workaholic type person, and it's not on purpose. It's just the way that we are, or the way our brains function. And that burnout is the worst feeling ever. You just feel like mush at the end of the week. You just don't know what to do with yourself, and you don't know why you're not happy. And you're only happy when you're in your work and you're like working 100%. And then, like, the fact you mix in all those personal tragedies that he had to deal with, in his grandfather passing away, and then his wife's family dealing with Ukraine, on top of a rough professional, like, period with the season going the way it was out of his control, mostly, you can see how that for someone like me and him, it can really weigh a lot on you. And I think I would have been perfectly fine. All the people who were trying to attack him say, "Oh, he's leaving because it's a losing season." He came after how many years, Zach, were the Rams not having a winning record with no success? And you're telling me he's afraid of like building up a team? What do you think he got hired for?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just that criticism drove me nuts. It's a mental health thing, and it's not talked about enough in our lives and in our careers.
Yeah, I fully agree. I do think it was a mental health thing. I think one of his decisions to come back. Um, I don't know. I think it's more relationship relate reasoning for him coming back. Stafford's coming back. Cup's coming back. His squad is coming back, and I think um, knowing that the organization was going to support him more, he was going to have a longer off season. He's going to have time to take a break and kind of reflect, continue to reflect on things and kind of improve. He's going to kind of clear house probably of most of his coaching staff, bring in maybe now, like, with Cliff Kingsbury being available, with what is it, one of the one of the LaFleur family um, is available, which could be also a spot to take the OC job.
Mike
Uh,
LaFleur, I believe,
yeah,
from
I
the
think it's Mike
Jets.
LaFleur. Yeah, um, there's a lot of people I think that are on the market now that are not all going to get head coaching positions because they either were one and got canned, or there's only 32 teams, so they're not all going to get filled. But I I think now he has the opportunity to get what he wants instead of them always leaving. Now he's like, well, y'all are leaving. We didn't have a good season. Now I can kind of pick from people that I know, the families that I know, um, pick from good quality candidates, whether they're young and like he has a personal relationship with them, or they're veterans. Bringing in Raheem Morris was fantastic job. Yes, he had some downtime when he was with the Falcons, but he's still a great defensive mind, and I think he would be an excellent coach with the right team. I think it's more relationship. He is the head honcho when it comes to that football team. At least for the players and the coaching wise of things. And I think I think he felt like he didn't want to leave this up to the players that who are still going to be around. He knew that, like you said, he knew Stafford was going to be around. He knew Cup was going to be around. I think he knew Ramsey was going to be around. Whether, again, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think this helps improve Donald sticking around for one more year. Again, that's still unknown because he's kind of been MIA, I feel like, for the last several weeks. But
Do
that's just
you think? Do you think McVay potentially retiring could like bring some of those even head coaching prospects, like some of the more sought out ones, possibly to wanting to be a OC or DC for the Rams, potentially seeing like, hey, I could succeed McVay on a good team versus a rebuilding Texans team, a Colts team that's a dumpster fire. Do you really think that can make those positions a little bit more premium? Like DeMarco may actually want to be a DC for Rams because like Kyle Shanahan's not going anywhere. But like, if you sit and do your time on this Rams team, you could be heir apparent. And I think Morris, if he stays, would become that. But I don't think he's gonna stay. So like, we're gonna have two premium positions open. We could track maybe the Lions' offensive coordinator. Like, we could poach a few people saying, hey, if you want to kind of like top priority and potentially succeeding McVay, like you should come here and like he'll help groom you and like he has a good track record, better than being the Texans head coach.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think, like I said, I think it does give opportunity to bring people in and then be the heir apparent. Like I said, I think Raheem Morris was that heir apparent if he decided to leave either last year or even this year. If Raheem Morris does move on, which hopefully he does, uh, for his sake and for his family's sake, um, I think that that does bring things into a clearer picture. Now, if Raheem Morris does stick around one more year, and McVay does retire after next year, then I would obviously put my hat towards Raheem Morris sticking or um, continuing down this road.
Hmm. Well, you want to talk about more drama? You brought up Ramsey.
Yeah, so this is Twitter can be great for releasing the latest news, broadcasting latest ventures like our podcast. Check us out at East Coast Rams on Twitter. But at the same time, it can also be somewhat kind of a toxic place, or it can just be a place where just misleading information comes out. So Jalen Ramsey posted a tweet that I don't have up in front of me at the moment, but basically saying, if I'm going out or if this is how it ends, I'm going out on top, or something to that line. And he was referring to the last game of the season. He was referring to that the season's over, wasn't the way that we wanted it to be, but at least in the last game, I put everything on the line. I got my 2 interceptions, things like that. People misconstrued that as either he was wanting to trade, he was retiring, the Rams were going to trade him, and I think Ramsey even at one point cleared it up with a beat writer for the Rams, just saying, yeah, that's not what I meant. I'm referring to my 2 interceptions here. So I just I think that was it just drives me nuts because like you just read it and you're like, "Ugh," you're just fishing for a news story. You're fishing for a hot take that is not truly a hot take. It's just you're just trying to get. It's more clickbait. I hate clickbait.
Yeah, sadly, the NFL is full of stuff like that, and it's like rinse and repeat. Like, geez, who is it? PFT. Like he is. You could tell he was crying when McVay said he was coming back because that man has only ever wanted our franchise to fail. For some, I feel like it must have been Rampage or something. Rampage must have like saw him someday in the mid 2000s and like punched him and beat him up behind the alley because I don't know why he just blindly hates everything about the Rams. You could tell he's like crying when he's talking about McVay coming back, and he's like talking about how the Rams overpaid too much for Ramsey and we're going to be trading him away, and it's just ridiculous. He's been great. His down year is one of the top 5 cornerbacks in the league. Calm down. Like, is he perfect? No. He's definitely not perfect. But a lot of teams would kill to have him at cornerback. And given the rest of our secondary, he is one of the reasons our secondary performed as well as it did. He covered up a lot of problems of the other players around him. And it's same thing with like Aaron Donald. He's a fundamental part of this team, and just the people hating on him for no reason because he's that good. Yeah, you gotta take it. He had a good game, and I'm happy he felt like he ended it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, you have a player who's just so elite at his position that if he has, one less interception, people think that he had a failure of a year. Um, if Cooper, like if said Cooper Cup, if he didn't become, the Triple Crown winner again this year, which obviously he wasn't because of injury, but even if he made it through the season, didn't get it, he's like, oh well, Cooper Cup, he's losing his edge. He's just not the same person he was in 2021. The 2021 season, and you're like, you can't be the Triple Crown winner every year. You can't be the Super Bowl MVP every year. You can't be the NFL MVP every year. I mean, you could be, the 9-time defensive player of the year. That's something you could be, but as far as the stats go, you cannot always be number one at every little thing every single year unless you're Aaron Donald.
No, people need to understand that is so freak of nature. That's so rare in an NFL, a parity driven league, to have a player play to the levels of Aaron Donald. And we have to kind of like very appreciate it and just take it in because we probably won't ever see it again in our lives, the level he's playing at consistently every year. Um, but Ramsey isn't to that level, but it's fine. He's still going to be one of the best cornerbacks of this decade. Um, he still has time to potentially get even better, and I could see him moving to safety when he's a little bit older and being a great safety. There's nothing wrong with that.
And that's something that we could possibly use.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that when we're talking about the draft and free agency. Um, uh, man. Yeah, you got any comments about this year dumpster fire as a whole? I mean, injuries, like we said this so many times on the pod, so we don't have to completely rehash it. It just it was a
Yeah,
disappointment. It would have sucked a lot
yeah,
more if we lost the Super Bowl.
yeah, yeah. It was disappointing. Um, but it is what it is. We'll move on. I think we can grow stronger from this experience. And yeah, I think um, we're just going to move on. It's great to know that we're going to have our coach back for at least one more season, and yeah, there were some high points. I mean, we got Bobby Wagner, and we're going to continue to have Bobby Wagner for the next season. So I think his game, even though he is getting up there, and once you start aging, you do start to kind of decline maybe a little bit. But Bobby Wagner played in the elites. If he was the one player who was extremely elite this season. Um, so I think that's good momentum. I think the
Most
defense is in
consistent
good hands
player.
for them. Yeah, for sure. Um, so we'll see. Um, we'll see. Noting the only thing that I will note that we had Bobby Wagner earned All Pro, earns his second All Pro nod,
Second team.
and so yep, second team. No Rams were actually put on the first team. I mean, mostly due to it was just. I mean, we were hit with injury. We had a bad record. Uh, Bobby Wagner really outside of Jalen Ramsey was probably the most elite. Um, so that's where we are. I thought the Rams posted their awards. Um, and I'm trying to find those now. I know Bobby Wagner got MVP for the Rams. Um,
Hmm.
oh, here it is. Here it is.
As he should. He was consistent and he had a few really great games. So
Yes.
congratulations to him. He deserves it.
Yeah,
I think we
he
were
had a
right
team.
when we were excited when we signed him. We were like, it's a perfect pairing to go with Ernest Jones and just like help grow his game. And you can see Ernest Jones growing. Like, Ernest Jones perfect or great right now? No, but I think you can tell he's gotten better from his rookie season to his second year. And I'm excited to see what more Wagner puts into him next year.
Yeah, his final stats were a team high of 140 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, which was a career best of sacks, five pass breakups, and two interceptions. So definitely deserving for all that praise. Rookie of the year went to Kobe Durant. He registered 22 tackles, five pass breakups, three interceptions, one sack, and a defensive touchdown. Um, and led the NFL with 151 in interception yards. So great to see that we are still building our secondary and we have good players in that depth position.
Hmm. Yeah, Jacoby Durant. Let's be honest, Zach. He has been a diamond found. Just fantastic. I'll take the lumps for DK. Clearly, Darion isn't ready for the NFL, and he may not be. But Jacoby Durant has just been anything but great, and I think he has a bright future. Just need to fill that third spot.
Yep. Finishing out, breakout player of the year was Cam Akers, mostly with his 512 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, 104 attempts. Mostly his best December that he's had with, breaking out three 100 plus yards. So there's that. Offensive player of the year went to Cooper Cup, which, he was even before his season-ending injury, he had 75 catches, 112 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He was on pace to finish with 142 receptions. So if he would have, projections as 142 receptions, 1,534 receiving yards, and 11 touchdowns. So that's where that was. And then defensive player of the year went to Bobby Wagner. Um, Pretty much just because, again, he was the most effective player on that team or on that defense, and in reality, the team. So I think that's all the major news of this week.
Only some minor news, a few things. Yeah, guys, we're looking forward to doing some draft stuff. I'm gonna try to dig in some positions of need, like running back, edge, safety. I know some that I'm really excited, and I hope the Rams draft. Chase Brown, I think, would be a great running back first pick up from Illinois. There's a few Georgia players that I wouldn't mind us picking up. This draft is gonna. I feel like it's gonna be our best draft in the last few years. I just really do. We have the highest pick we've had since Goff, I believe, because we have what 37. So we have a chance to pick a top 40 talent, and I actually think we're gonna pick there. I think we really have to have a quality edge player there, or possibly. I could even see us going wide receiver. So, guys, we'll try to do some research and kind of watch some tape and give you guys just our opinion. It's not going to be anything fancy or uh, perfect, but we'll give our 2 cents and see who they kind of roll with and look forward to that. The schedule did drop, Zach. And not schedule, but
Oh,
like who
yes.
we're playing home and away. So there's some exciting news about me and you in there because they are uh, playing the Colts, correct? Away?
They're playing the Colts and the Bengals both away, which typically people wouldn't be super excited about, except that is the closest to me. I sit right in between the Colts and the Rams, closer to the Colts, but both of them
Colts and
are
Bengals.
Colts and Bengals. What did I say?
Colts and Rams.
Oh, yeah. So those two I'm definitely looking at going to, which means I don't know if I'll be able to get to SoFi again this year, but I still should be able to make it to at least two Rams games. So looking super excited to that. Just depends on what time of year. The Colts doesn't really matter
Yeah.
because they have a mostly indoor stadium.
And,
Uh,
yeah.
the Bengals stadium is the iffy one of what time of year it's going to be at and how many layers I'm going to have to bring. So, uh,
Yeah, I think either one of those trips would be kind of fun to go on and experience, get to see you in person and get to see the team play. It's kind of hard, given our name, guys, to see the team. We try to do our best. I definitely try to go as much as I can. tickets aren't cheap and it's very hard. But I will definitely be going to the Ravens game because that's only like 50 minutes away from me. So I'll be going to that one again, and either one of those, and we'll definitely put out some content and stuff, and hopefully it's a win, Zach, because that would make it a little
Hope
bit better.
so. Yeah, we got. I mean, this year is looking good for us. I mean, with the combine coming back to Indianapolis, My plan is to cover that as much as I can. Try to be there in person, live. So we'll see how well that goes. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
last
we'll
week we did
we'll have
our.
like a Zach stock, and whose stock in your stock exchange is going up and down on who you're watching, who's impressing you. We'll have some
I'm gonna try to
groundbreaking
hunt down some
coverage.
people. Yeah, I hope so, and I'm hoping I'm gonna try to find some, some execs and
Interviews?
coaches. Maybe we
Oh
can try
yeah,
to get some interviews too. I'm working a little magic on that side of things, so we'll see how it goes. I know last week we did our grading for the offense and special teams. I assume in the next episode we'll probably finish off and do the
yep,
defense. So people were waiting for that. We decided we were going to push that back a week because we had so much to talk about this week.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah,
Yeah,
this
if you end up seeing McVay, I think we're gonna have to, like, as a pod, like, pay for a stress ball and give it to him. Just like a
with our
little
logo, East
squishy
Coast
like round.
Rams,
Yeah, a
with an East
little
Coast
logo
Rams
he can
logo.
like.
I got a guy.
A
I got a guy who
shameless
could
plug.
probably work us up one. Yeah.
Yeah, see, uh, it he'll kind of need it. It's be like, not a big deal. Like, thank you for being a great coach, and thank you for not having a mental breakdown. Definitely understand why you would. Stressful year, but yeah, a lot to look forward. Zach, got a lot of fun pods planned. We will be going back to probably once every 3 or 4 weeks. Again, if something happens, guys, we'll try to put out a pod. We'll be more active around the draft. We'll try to put pod videos out then too. Keep engaged with us. We'll keep on putting stuff out on the Twitterverse and talking with you guys, putting out some hot takes and stuff like that. A lot of fun engagement, and that's what we love to see.
Yeah, we're continuing to try to make this podcast as great as possible. Obviously, adding video is something that we've been wanting to do, and we are going to try to do this as often as we can. But if you guys have any questions or feedback, you can always email us at feedback at East Coast Rams. Follow us on Twitter at East Coast Rams. Feel free to DM us if you have any questions. Interact with us. It can Twitter can be fun at the same time as it also can be disappointing. But we like to have fun and stay positive. Also, we're also on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching this, you already know we're on YouTube. But if you're listening to it, you can please subscribe to the
Yeah.
podcast there as well. YouTube.com/@ East Coast Rams is how you can find us, or just search East Coast Rams. Um, but yeah, thank you for everyone who does listen to the pod, whether it's in the ears on your drive in to work, whether you're watching at home on the big screen or watching it while you work on YouTube. Thank you again. We really appreciate every single person who takes time to listen to this podcast. Any final
Definitely
words?
enjoyed. Yeah, enjoy that Super Bowl intro that we're gonna put in front of this until the Super Bowl. We're gonna try to milk that for the last few weeks.
Hey, we are
Uh,
still the reigning Super Bowl champions until the next
we
Super Bowl.
are, we are, and then I have to change my Twitter handle after that. Sadly,
Yeah, I know.
uh, I still got a few weeks. Few weeks. Uh, so definitely like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching on YouTube and listening on our podcast. Like, or Aaron Donald will tackle you. Uh, no, he won't. We don't know Aaron Donald, sadly. That's all from me, Zach.
Yeah. All right, everybody. It is the end of the season, but it is not the end of East Coast Rams. So continue listening and waiting for the next podcast to drop. Everyone, horns up. See you guys.
Season 3.